Hey there, friends. I know many times we talk about a lot of negative stuff on here because my biggest goal is always to try to expose people and politicians and people in general who are trying to do others harm or take away from people's liberties or their rights. I actually have, I think, some uplifting news for you guys today. You know, we've had this debate over the last week about who the Senate Majority Leader was going to be now that old chinless turtlehead Mitch McConnell was going to step aside and let somebody more capable and less communist take over as leader of the Senate, as far as Republicans go anyway. Well, the debate was between John Cornyn, Rick Scott, and Thune. John Thune, of course, being the one who eventually won out. And at first, a lot of people were against him because John Thune was critical of Trump. Now, I'm going to separate this video into a couple of different, literally two different ways. One, supporting Trump's policies and what Trump wants to do, and two, Second Amendment, because Second Amendment is what initially I'm looking at here when I grade these senators, literally looking at these three guys from a Second Amendment standpoint. However they impact Trump's decisions and supporting his policies going forward, to me, is secondary. Because when you show your colors as an anti-Second Amendment person, not much else matters to me after that because I've already written you off, right? Well, with Thune being the winner, a lot of people weren't sure about him because of his stance with Trump in the past. I think, like a lot of other people, he realized the error of his ways, and he realized that Trump was really good for our country. And I think he now will be in support of that. Now, that's all speculation, and it's based on what he has said, and it's based on what, quite frankly, Trump has said of Thune. Trump has actually spoken positively about Thune here recently once Thune was anointed as that Senate Majority Leader. Now, real quick, I want to give you some backstory on the other two candidates, and we're going to include a little bit of information on Thune as well. First of all, we've got John Cornyn over here. Zero use for that, excuse my French, rat bastard. John Cornyn is a horrible human being. He is a liar. He is a rhino. He is essentially a Democrat who is registered as a Republican and wins as a Republican, but he is no conservative. Let me make that very clear. There are very distinct differences between conservatives and Republicans. This man is a Republican by name. He is certainly no conservative, and he is certainly no friend of the Constitution. You'll remember, he is one of the main ones who not only voted for Joe Biden's bipartisan, safer, whatever, Communities Act, Gun Control Act. John Cornyn not only voted for it, but he also help coach people to vote for it. John Cornyn was one of the main guys who pushed other Republicans to vote in favor of this unconstitutional bill, which, among other things, other than attacking FFL owners, it actually has a very large, massive chunk of money. We're talking about hundreds of millions to billions of dollars of bribe money that are taken from the states that now will be paid back to the states in the form of grant money to try to bribe these states into implementing their own red flag gun laws, which, as we all know, every single red flag gun law is unconstitutional. There is no constitutional red flag gun law. Cornyn lobbied for this bill as well as voted for it. So he immediately is out, right? He is a true swamp monster. He is one of the kind of people that so many of us, and even a lot of the Trump supporters out there, want out of Washington, D.C. Can you tell how happy I am that he's not the majority leader? This man does not deserve anybody's trust. Now, Rick Scott. Where does Rick Scott stand? Well, Rick Scott, more recently, as a result of the Bipartisan Safer Community Act that John Cornyn did pass, or at least voted for and coached people to pass, Rick Scott did not vote for it. He voted against the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. That included red flag gun laws. So that should be great, right? That should mean that Rick Scott would have been just as good as Thune, right? I mean, he's anti-red flag gun law. Not so fast. While Rick Scott, along with John Thune, did vote against the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, again, opposing John Cornyn's wishes, Rick Scott at least was a supporter of red flag gun laws and acting on emotion Rick Scott supported and passed a red flag gun law, and you see the headline right here. I'm a gun owner and an NRA member, as if that matters. I support red flag laws to help stop mass shootings. Let's be really clear. You can't support red flag gun laws only to stop mass shootings. If you support red flag gun laws, you support them in every way, because there's no distinction between who may or may not actually commit a mass shooting. So you can't say, oh, well, this time it's okay to violate that person's constitutional rights because we think it's going to stop a future mass shooting. No, this is not the thought police. This is not some Hollywood movie. This is real life. When you do stuff like that, you're just guessing. You're simply guessing. I don't care what ground you have it on. If you don't have a person who has committed a crime, they should not be prevented from having firearms. That is a fact. That is a constitutional fact. You and nobody else, Rick Scott, has any kind of authority or power to guess, to suppose who might in the future carry out some kind of a shooting or crime. That's not up to you. You don't have that power. And let's be honest, you don't have that gift, that skill. Nobody does. No one knows what another person is going to do in the future except for the person who's going to commit that crime. So Rick Scott, you removed yourself from my nice list by supporting this. You can say more recently via the Bipartisan Safer Community Act that you voted against, that you voted against a form of red flag gun laws, but you were very much on record as far as supporting them in the past, and that is not a person that I can live with being in charge of a very slim majority in the Senate. Let's be very clear here. There's no room for error in the Senate. It's way too close. It's only one or two person majority that we have in the Senate. So there's no room for error. You can't afford to have anyone as a detractor of something that you're trying to push through. Now, regarding the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, along with Rick Scott, John Thune did vote against it, and some people see that as a negative. The gun control groups certainly do. As you can see, he voted against that, and that is something that I have to commend him on. So you might be thinking, well, what other things has he either supported or has he been against? Well, I can tell you Thune by himself has put forth other pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment bills, more specifically concealed carry. John Thune was very, very clear that he felt like a state line should not prohibit somebody from being able to carry a firearm between states. And he's right. In fact, maybe he's listening, maybe he's not listening to Thune, but you heard what Donald Trump said, right? That's one of Donald Trump's goals. The same type of bill that John Thune presented and tried to push through Congress before is the same thing that Donald Trump has already said that he plans on signing if it comes to his desk. So I think reciprocity from a concealed carry standpoint, it's a real strong possibility. Now, let's be real honest here. With the filibuster still being in place, it's very unlikely that we are going to get just a wholehearted Senate support of that. We would need 60 votes for that in the Senate. You're not going to get 8 or 10 Democrats to cross over and vote for reciprocity as far as constitutional carry amongst states here in the United States. So that's likely not going to happen. It will probably be buried into, and this is the kind of stuff that I hate, but the only way it's likely going to pass with this count in the Senate is if it's tagged on to some kind of appropriations or a funding bill somehow where it's slid in there, because that can be passed with a simple majority, not a 60 senator majority. So I think it's more of a possibility down the road if it's added into a bill. Again, I hate those kinds of things. I think every single bill should be a one issue, one item bill, and you pass it according to that. Quit adding all this fat in there. In this case, somebody sliding one of these stupid little side bills in there might benefit us, because this does have the potential to pass. In other words, if Democrats are looking down, wanting to pass something that's going to give them more power, more money to spend somewhere else, and if it looks like it's going to pass no matter what, Thune can certainly look at adding the constitutional carry bill in with that, so that the Democrats are basically told, look, we'll let your big bill pass with all this stupid funding and fluff in it, but you're going to have to take our bill along with it. and that way it would pass. So just something to think about going forward. I think it's extremely important that we all understand who we're dealing with in many cases. And while I know Thune has had an issue with some of Trump's policies in the past, he seems like he's righted his ways. And I'd be surprised if the closed door conversations that John Thune and Donald Trump have had, that it didn't resolve those issues that they may have had in the past, because Donald Trump has approached a lot of things way different this time around than he did the first time around. Last time it was like my way or the highway, and you're just going to accept it. This way, it's still Donald Trump's way or the highway, but he seems a lot more diplomatic about that, where he's willing to sit down and talk to somebody and hear their grievances and hear them say, what is it that you don't like about this particular policy of mine? And let's have that discussion behind closed doors instead of doing it on Twitter or wherever else. So I do think that out of the three candidates that we were faced with, I could not have stomached Rick Scott with his red flag gun laws and John Corin with his rat bastard anti-Second Amendment and anti-Constitution ways. This is certainly the best out of three. Now, were there other senators out there that I would have liked to have seen as majority leader? Yeah. Rand Paul, I could have probably dealt with Rand Paul. I have some differences with some of the stuff Rand Paul thinks. I do think that a lot of what he talked about in regards to COVID and wanting to throw Fauci in jail are very positive. I would like to see that. Hopefully John Thune will listen to Rand Paul in that respect and go after the people like Fauci that lied and duped and actually got people killed with their little experimental shot. So hopefully there are some things out there that happen in regards to that. But yeah, there were other senators out there. But let's face it, did every other senator out there that might have been better than Thune, did they even want it? I mean, really? You're going to be thrown into a whole lot more scrutiny whenever you're the majority leader. McConnell deserved all the scrutiny that he had. He was horrible, horrible. Again, another rat bastard just like Corin. I mean, in fact, McConnell is who got Corin to lobby for the anti-gun bill that they passed with Joe Biden in office. So I know that those guys influence each other in a lot of different ways. So at this point, until he shows us otherwise, I think we give John Thune a chance. We give him the opportunity. I think his record on the Second Amendment is rock solid. So at this point, something would have to change with him in order for us to somehow get anti-gun bills pushed through. Or, I say this all the time, when we get the White House, the House, and the Senate, it's time to push pro-gun bills through. That's what I want to see right now. I'm tired of them saying, oh, it wasn't the right time or we didn't have the votes. Let's see if you have the votes. Put a bill up there and let's see. That's what I want to see. It tests the waters. See what kind of testicular fortitude you can actually summon from some of these weenies out there in the Senate and see where they stand. In fact, that might help us primary them and get them out of office later on, because some of them are coming up in a couple of years. So this is a good opportunity for us to dip that stick in the water and see what sticks to it and who we want to get rid of and who we want to hold on to.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.